Howdy and welcome back to the workshop. In today's episode, we have something a little bit different planned because Matt is here. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm great.
That's great. Here's the thing. I'm headed out on a trip and Matt is gonna hold down the fort because you guys might not know this, but if you don't stick to a scheduled YouTube timeline, YouTube gets really mad at you. And so in order to keep the content flowing like wine, Matt, who's a very talented bladesmith, he just got his journeyman bladesmith rating, is going to be forging something cool. Matt, do you have an idea of what you're gonna forge today?
Yeah, I think we're gonna make
That's
ourselves.
great.
Well, now that Will scampered off to the mountains for the weekend to shoot bows and arrows, we can finally talk in peace. On today's episode, we're gonna be making a Damascus cleaver. And without further ado, I'm gonna light the forge, weld up the billet, and then we'll go over the design and what makes this cleaver so unique. So for this project, I'm using some of our house-made 200-layer ladder pattern Damascus, interrupted by some bold bands of 1080 high carbon steel. After cutting my Damascus into 2-inch strips, I take all my steel into the grinding room and get it cleaned up so I get perfect, flawless forge welds. Now when I stacked up this billet, I realized the edges were a little uneven and I was worried about cold shuts, so I just clamped the billet together, took it back into the grinding room and ground them clean. Now we're ready for welding. Give that a few minutes to heat up. This is a cleaver that my uncle found on his ranch up in Northern California, and it's dated back to the Gold Rush era. Going into the design phase, I'm gonna take some of the traditional elements from this cleaver and add my own little spin on it and see what we can come up with. Well, it doesn't look too much like my Gold Rush era cleaver. However, I'm very happy with the design and ready for some forging. Now we just have to decide how much material we need. We should thin it out and then decide. Well, now that I have my material down to the thickness that I want to begin forging my cleaver, the first step is to isolate the material for the tang. Now, while I was forging, I had an idea pop into my head. Rather than isolating material from one side to forge out my tang, I decided to punch a hole, cut to the edge, and bend the material for the tang around. This worked really well, and it was quite fun to do. That's sick. Now that I have the profile of the cleaver forged to where I want it, I'm going to use the hydraulic press with some tight 1/2-inch fuller dies to manipulate the surface of the material and combine those layers and get some good funk going on, as well as get myself closer to the final dimension of what I want this cleaver to be. So I'm just about done getting the texturing in the blade. I'm just going to flatten everything out, let it cool down slowly, and grind off the top layer. Okay, well, we are done with the forging, and this thing currently weighs almost 3 pounds. So I'm gonna head into the grinding room, try to put it on a bit of a diet. tired of this taking so long. So we have a few little flaws in the forge weld itself. I think I can grind them out. There's some on the other side as well, some near the edge. I think I can get them out. I think it's just where that top layer of Damascus is meeting the second layer of 1080. Should be able to get it out. I got the rest of them out, but I just want to get this thing clean before heat treat so I know the steel's perfect and there's not going to be any weird stuff in it. So I got the cleaver cleaned up, but I don't have it profiled to shape yet. So I'm gonna take some tracing paper, trace out our design, cut it out, and see where we're at with everything fitting. Well, we have our design here, and it seems like we got a little overexcited with the forging and the amount of material we needed. Now the real question is do we change our design? That's a lot of material to cut off. Maybe we'll modify our design. I think I'm liking this squarer nose instead of having it round over more, so I'm just going to make sure that the tip of the cleaver is the furthest point out in line with this. Get it cleaned up a little bit and get it into the heat treat. And drill our hole. Don't forget about the hole. Sometimes I've found too, if there's a burr on the outside of it, the drill bit just stops cutting, so. This thing's really hard for some reason, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to try to ruin this carbide end mill instead. That was so easy. There we go. We got a holy cleaver. Take this to church with you. We'll go on into here, kiln. Wow, that's hot. My goodness. These are the worst tongs possible.
Is it okay though?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
You sure?
Yeah, it'll burn all the oxygen out. It's a good thing.
20 minutes later.
Okay, let's see. It is hot and it's ready. Come on, you bastard. Oh, that was not good. I think most of it got quenched right away. Oh, it looks hard. We're good. We're good. Sick. Well, the heat treat seems to have gone pretty good. The thing was straight, didn't crack. It looks like it got hard. So I'm gonna put it in the temper overnight and then spend all day tomorrow grinding. Well, it's the next day and our cleaver has finished two 2-hour temper cycles at 400 degrees and it is looking rather nice. We got the nice deep straw color. I tempered this one a little softer than I usually go with my chef knives just because this is going to be such a thick, heavy chopping tool. Yesterday I ground almost a pound of material off this blade and now I'm gonna head back into the grinding room and get this thing thinned out and ground up to its final proportions. Well, after a long time in the grinding room, approximately 4 hours, I have this thing ground up, nice and thin, disc ground up to 600 grit, and now hand sanding. So I'm starting off with 400 grit, just gonna see how this goes. I might have to go back down to 220 if there's any big undulations in the steel. Right now, 400 grit is looking like it's gonna do the job. Something really helpful if you're doing these big blades or really any blades that have a convex surface is just having a soft back sanding stick. If you make sure the thing you're gluing the rubber to is perfectly flat, then your rubber stays perfectly flat, but it gives you a little give to just kind of blend out all the lumps. Well, I got this thing hand sanded up to 800 grit. That's where I like to take it and get everything clean before I start putting my handle on. It's gonna get scratched again, but hopefully not too deep, so I'll be able to come in and do a light finishing pass after the handle's done. So now I'm going to square up these shoulders with a file guide and get the tang refined and nice and tapered, and then we'll move on putting the handle on. So I got the shoulders squared up on the cleaver, and now I have to go in and trim this tang down just a bit so that it will fit in the handle without causing issues. Okay, so I got my blade all sanded and shoulders squared up, ready to put a handle on it. I have this piece of mild steel that I'm gonna use as the bolster, and this super neat block of lace she-oak that I think is gonna make a pretty dang good handle. So I'm gonna head on over to the mill and get all this stuff put together. Gotta mark our edges. I usually try to make these a little bit on the inside of where our tang is so we can get a nice, clean, crisp fit by sneaking up on it. So you can see I got a center line and the top and the bottom, and I'm gonna translate those lines onto the bottom so I can mill a bigger slot on the bottom and a smaller slot up top, so the only place I'm contacting is right around the shoulders of the ricasso. Alec left all the metric end mills when he left and took all the imperial ones. Should be illegal. That looks good. And this is our measurement of how wide we need to make the slot. 171 thousandths of an inch. Ah, I broke that one. Oh, one last breath. Ah, see, it was so close to goodness. Sometimes it helps to drill a couple holes when you're using tiny end mills and then just connect it with the end mill. I'm not much of a machinist. Wow, those are so even. Now we just have to take our end mill, widen out that slot. Does anybody know why the chips stand up like that? It's not magnetized, but they just do that. I don't know why. So we currently have an 1/8 inch slot in our guard, and I'm just gonna widen it out by about 15 thousandths on either side and then start driving it on and seeing how it fits. Almost there. Dang it. Okay, yeah, that's right where I like it. 1 to 1.5 inches back from the shoulders. This fit up is tapered, so I want to leave it a little further back so I don't go too far on the bottom there. I'm gonna drive it on, see where we can get it to, and then start removing material accordingly. It's gonna go all the way. Maybe not all the way. Sometimes if you get them too tight, then they don't come off, and then you have to figure out how to get them off. Just don't know why I'd know that. Tight. You can see just driving it on really hard, squared up those corners, and just gave me the beginnings of a really tight fit. I'm gonna go in and flatten off the top here and then relieve some material on the top and bottom so it fits into the corners better. I use a square needle file to go in there and relieve a little bit of material. You can do this with a rotary tool like a Dremel and a burr, but I like the control of a file. And since this fit has an angle to it, I'm gonna remove some material from the back of the slot here so that the tang has a place to sit. This one you definitely just have to be careful not to touch the front edges of your fit up. Okay, let's go drive it on again. This should go on all the way. Here I have to be really careful because I'm touching at this side and not touching at this side. If I drive on flat like this, what it'll do is just dig a hole in that side of the guard. So I'm gonna take my tool off and go on this side and actually angle it a little bit and tap it and see if it moves. It's not really looking like it, so I gotta go in there and remove material. Well, I got the bolster fit up and I had this piece of cracked mammoth ivory laying around and I was able to grind down and get myself a little spacer out of it. So I'm going to put that on there and move on to fitting the rest of the handle up. We made rice, and just like that, we're done. Now, the next step is to lay out the angle that I want to cut the top of the block at. Right about there. Take something kind of straight, lock it in. So we got our handle angle figured out. Now we just have to figure out where to drill the hole. I'm gonna call that good. So I marked out where I want my tang. Now I gotta find the center of this block, drill a hole. It's probably not good to do with these calipers because they're nice ones. Mark the edges of my slot. My goodness, that's what the birds sound like in hell. Well, we drilled a very big hole, but it fits perfectly. So no harm, no foul. Now let's glue it all together and wait. Peel back my tape so I don't glue my tape to my blade. That can be hard to get off, I've heard. I'm gonna scuff the top of this block up just a little so that this piece of mammoth actually sticks to it and I can shape everything as one. And then I'm gonna put a little thin layer of paste wax on the guard, bolster, whatever you'd like to call it, so that does not stick to everything else. One thing I try not to do is get any paste wax down in this relief slot because I actually want epoxy to get in there and just firm everything up a bit. It's a pretty tight fit, but that just helps make sure everything goes back on in the same way. Sometimes I do black epoxy and sometimes it can bleed into the white. So I'm just doing clear. I'm gonna clear it up. Well, we got our knife tang bedded. Now it's time to pop the handle off and then start shaping it. Pretty excited about this. I've never worked with this material, never put ivory on a knife. That's an interesting fun fact. And I've never used she oak. So a whole bunch of new things. And this thing's huge. So let's go. I'm just gonna draw in my handle and where I want it to go. And that way I can know what to do. Now I need to pop the handle off because if I grind away all this material, it gives me nowhere to hit to pop the handle off. There we go. Now the nice thing about doing it this way is I can slide this handle on and it goes to the same exact spot every time. It doesn't twist. Well, it twists a little. I'm gonna take a little bit of thin super glue and just spread it across the tang and then wipe it off. And what that'll do is build up a tiny layer of material and help it fit a little tighter. Will taught me that one. It's a great secret.
Secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone.
And just like kind of spread it around. Super glue is dry. Almost got it, a little more. Yeah, that's perfect. Just having a bit of a think on how I can make this handle just a little slimmer, a little more comfortable. It's a lot wider than I normally do my chef knife handles, but this obviously is not a normal chef knife. So I think I'm gonna bring this line up a little bit more so it gives it a little bit more curve, and then potentially take some more material off the back here. And yeah, just get it generally a little more thinned out. It's feeling really nice. The weight is great. It is looking super good. I really am liking the look of this lace she oak, and that mammoth ivory is super duper cool. The next step is I'm gonna go in and chamfer the edges of the bolster and get it all sandblasted and blackened, and then the handle's done. Got her probably. So, well, we can put the handle together and just make sure everything's looking good. Look at that. That looks cool, I think. So earlier when I was trying and failing to drill this hole to the proper size, I had the drill bit catch and twist and leave a little ridge on one side of the hole. So now I have to go back in with a sanding drum on my rotary tool to get everything evened up and cleaned up before the final etch. And I'd like to tell you that the etching process on this knife followed a specific formula and was super precise, but that would be a bold-faced lie. The etch on this knife fought me every step of the way, and I had to throw every trick in the book at it, sometimes twice, in varying orders and magnitudes. But after 2 days of messing with the etch, multiple rounds of hand sanding, and a lot of instant coffee, I'm very happy with the result. I think it's done. Well, I am just so happy with how this cleaver turned out. I love the deep black with the high layer contrast. It looks really cool. It's a pain to do, but it looks cool. If you by chance want to add this cleaver to your knife collection, head on over to steltermanufacturing.com right now. Also, we have a fresh drop of some mono steel brute to forge cleavers, some Damascus Santokus, and one bottle opener to rule them all. You gotta go over to steltermanufacturing.com to check all that stuff out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you like seeing me in the video, comment down below. And if you don't like seeing me in the video, fight with the people who comment down below in the comments. It'll make for good fun. And as always, thank you to our amazing patrons for patronizing us. Patronizing? And with that, we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.